The date is July 26, 1945. The location is the island of Tinian, a small speck of coral and rock in the vastness of the Pacific Ocean. A heavy cruiser, the USS Indianapolis, drops anchor. She has just completed a sprint across the ocean at record speed. Her cargo was a wooden crate and a lead bucket. Inside them were the components for Little Boy, the atomic bomb that would soon fall on Hiroshima. The crew does not know what they have carried. They only know that it is important and that their part of the mission is done. They have delivered the fire that will end the war. With the cargo unloaded, the tension on board relaxes. The ship receives orders to sail for Leyte in the Philippines to prepare for the invasion of Japan. But there is a shadow hanging over these orders. The Indianapolis is denied a destroyer escort. She is ordered to sail alone through waters known to be prowled by Japanese submarines. The captain, Charles McVay III, requests an escort, but he is told it is not necessary. The threat is deemed low. It is a fatal miscalculation. On the night of July 29th, the Indianapolis is cutting through the dark water. The sea is choppy. The clouds obscure the moon. Visibility is poor. Because of the darkness, Captain McVay orders the ship to cease zigzagging, a standard maneuver to avoid torpedoes, and to head straight for its destination. Beneath the surface, the Japanese submarine I-58, commanded by Mochitsura Hashimoto, is hunting. Just before midnight, Hashimoto spots a dark silhouette against the horizon. He cannot believe his luck. It is a massive target, sailing in a straight line. He orders his crew to prepare the Kaiten, manned suicide torpedoes, but decides instead to fire standard Type 95 torpedoes. He fires a spread of 6. At 12:14 a.m. on July 30th, the world explodes. The first torpedo slams into the starboard bow of the Indianapolis. It blows 40 feet of the ship's nose completely off. The vessel shudders violently, but she is still moving. Seconds later, the second torpedo strikes. This one hits amidships, right under the fuel bunkers and the powder magazine. The explosion is apocalyptic. It rips the spine out of the ship. All power is lost immediately. The lights go out. The radio room is smashed, preventing a distress signal from being effectively transmitted. The ship begins to list heavily to the right. Men are thrown from their bunks into walls of steel. Fire engulfs the corridors. The order to abandon ship is given, but there is hardly time to breathe, let alone launch lifeboats. The Indianapolis is not sinking, she is diving. In just 12 minutes, 12 short, terrifying minutes, the massive cruiser rolls over and plunges into the abyss. She takes 300 men down with her, but nearly 900 men make it into the water. They bob in the black ocean, covered in thick, choking fuel oil. They are gasping, vomiting, terrified. But they are alive. They believe that help will come in the morning. They believe the Navy knows where they are. They are wrong. Because of a bureaucratic error at the port in Leyte, the Indianapolis is not marked as overdue. No one knows they are missing. No one is looking for them. The sun rises on the first day. The sea is calm. The men form groups, clinging to the few life rafts, to floating nets, or simply linking arms to stay afloat. But as the sun climbs higher, the true enemy reveals itself. It is not the Japanese, it is the elements. The heat is blistering. Thirst begins to set in immediately, and then the screaming starts. Drawn by the sound of the explosion and the scent of blood, the sharks arrive. Oceanic whitetips, aggressive, opportunistic predators. At first, they pick off the dead bodies floating on the periphery, but soon they grow bolder. They begin to attack the living. The men watch in horror as fins cut through the water. Suddenly, a man is yanked under. A pool of red blooms in the blue water, then vanishes. The terror is psychological as much as it is physical. Every brush of a leg against something underwater sends a jolt of panic through the group. By the third day, the situation has descended into a living hell.
The thirst is unbearable. Men, driven mad by dehydration, begin to hallucinate. They see islands that aren't there. They see ships that are just clouds. In their delirium, some men break the cardinal rule of survival at sea. They drink the salt water. The result is instant madness. The salt poisons their brains. They become violent, thrashing in the water, attacking their shipmates with knives, screaming that Japanese sailors are among them. They drown each other. They swim away from the groups and are eaten by the sharks. The discipline of the crew disintegrates into a primal struggle for survival. Hundreds die. The groups drift apart. The ocean is vast and indifferent. Their survivors are rotting alive, their skin sloughing off from the fuel oil and the salt sun. They have accepted that they are dead men. They are just waiting for the end. Then, on the fourth day, a miracle happens.
It is sheer accident. Lieutenant Chuck Gwynn is flying a PV-1 Ventura bomber on a routine anti-submarine patrol. He is looking for Japanese subs, not survivors. He happens to look down to check an antenna wire that is flapping loose. In that split second, he sees a long oil slick on the water. He thinks it is an enemy submarine leaking oil. He dives to attack. But as he gets closer, he sees something that makes his blood run cold. He sees heads, hundreds of them, bobbing in the oil. He radios for help immediately. Many men in water. The Navy is stunned. They didn't even know a ship was lost. A PBY Catalina seaplane, piloted by Lieutenant Adrian Marks, is the first to arrive on the scene. Marks looks down and sees the sharks attacking the men. He sees the survivors being dragged under. Disregarding standing orders that forbid landing in open ocean swells, Marks makes a decision. He drops his plane onto the rough water. He taxis towards the swimmers, throwing out life rafts. He pulls men onto the wings of the plane, filling the fuselage until it is overflowing. He lashes men to the struts. He turns his aircraft into a life raft. As night falls, the rescue ship USS Cecil J. Doyle finally arrives. The captain of the Doyle turns his searchlight on, pointing it straight up into the sky as a beacon. It is a risk in wartime, but he does not care. He wants the men to know that help is here. The sailors who were pulled from the water are unrecognizable. They are emaciated, covered in ulcers, blinded by the oil. Their eyes are hollow, having seen things that no human should ever see. The rescue continues for days, scouring the ocean for stragglers. When the final count is made, the magnitude of the tragedy is revealed. Of the 1,195 men who sailed on the Indianapolis, only 316 have survived. 879 men are gone. Some went down with the ship, but hundreds of young men died in the water, victims of exposure, thirst, and the sharks. The aftermath brings no peace. The Navy, embarrassed by its failure to notice the ship was missing, looks for a scapegoat. They find one in Captain McVeigh. In a controversial court-martial, he is charged with failing to zigzag. The Navy even goes so far as to bring Mochitsura Hashimoto, the Japanese submarine commander, to testify against him. McVeigh is convicted. He is the only captain in the history of the United States Navy to be court-martialed for losing his ship in war. It would take decades for his name to be cleared, decades for the truth to be acknowledged that the Indianapolis was sent into harm's way without protection and that her crew was left to die by a system that failed them. The USS Indianapolis delivered the bomb that ended the war, but the price was paid in the dark waters of the Pacific, where the silence is broken only by the memory of screams.